Okay, let's dive in. Picture this. Thoothukudi, Tamil Nadu. We're talking early May 2025. Blazing sun, right? And the ground, just cracked earth, parched.
Yeah, it's a really stark image because this isn't naturally barren land we're discussing. This should be fertile.
Exactly. But something's gone really wrong. We're looking at, what, 15,000 acres? Just crops failing, wilting away.
It's a huge area, 15,000 acres. That's not just a patch of bad luck. That's a regional crisis unfolding.
It really is. It goes way beyond just an agricultural problem. This hits the heart of the whole community, threatens livelihood.
The scale is just staggering. Think about the crops we usually see there.
Paddy fields, banana groves, areas like Srivakuntam, Karungalam, Author, normally lush, now drooping, lifeless.
Devastating. And who gets hit hardest?
It's the small farmers, isn't it? The marginal ones. They pour everything they have into this, their sweat, their saving.
Everything. Their entire lives are tied to that land.
And you hear them saying things like, well, one quote really stuck with me. We're not just losing crops, we're losing hope.
Wow. Yeah. That says it all, really. That feeling of lost hope, it speaks volumes. It's more than just a balance sheet for them.
It's their whole way of life, their security. Gone. So what's actually causing this? It's not just the weather, is it?
No. Well, the weather's a factor, definitely. But a huge part of the story is the Thamirabarani River.
The lifeline for the region, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Its canals are crucial for irrigation, but right now the river levels are low. And the dams upstream, Papanasam and Manamuthar, they're holding back water because their own storage is low.
So less water flowing down, and then there's the allocation issue.
Yes. The Public Works Department, the PWD, they manage the water. And look, they have to prioritize drinking water. That's non-negotiable, obviously.
Of course. Human consumption first.
But the knock-on effect is that agriculture gets squeezed severely. Irrigation canals are running dry.
And this is where it gets contentious, because some farmers feel the distribution isn't fair.
Exactly. There are allegations, and this isn't new. We saw similar things back in 2023 with protests over the Marudar check dam.
Right, I remember that. Alleged diversions.
Yes. So farmers are asking, if the river has enough water for the cities, why can't even a trickle be spared for our crops?
It's a powerful question. It speaks to that feeling of, well, injustice, really, when a vital resource seems unfairly shared.
And that perception of unfairness is corrosive. In times of scarcity, how resources are divided is critical. It has to feel fair, too.
Adding to all this is the rainfall situation, or lack thereof.
Yeah, Thoothukudi has large rain-fed areas, like around Kovilpati and Villathiculam. They depend heavily on seasonal rains.
And those rains have become so unpredictable. We saw it in 2022, remember? The summer rains just didn't show up. Maize, cotton, wiped out.
And it seems 2025 is shaping up similarly. It really throws the impact of climate change into sharp relief, doesn't it? Makes it almost impossible to plan.
Totally. That increased variability. Thoothukudi is right on the front line.
So faced with this, the farmers didn't just sit back.
No, they took action. On May 6th, they gathered at the Thoothukudi Collectorate.
To make their voices heard, what were their specific demands?
Primarily, water release. They needed water in the Vadakal and Thenkal canals, fed by the Thamirabarani like yesterday, to save what's left of the crops.
Makes sense. Direct, urgent need.
And they also raise another critical point, those damaged water tanks.
Ah, yes, the ones hit by the floods back in December 2023. Kadambakalam, Author.
That's right, still not repaired, still unusable. So these tanks, meant to be a backup, are just sitting there empty, like empty promises.
That's a really key point. Infrastructure damaged by one extreme event, the flood hasn't been fixed, making them more vulnerable to the next crisis, the drought. It's a cycle.
And their requests were quite specific, weren't they, about managing what little water there is?
Yeah, they asked for water to be stored up to 7 feet in the Srivakuntam check dam, specifically to push it towards the tail end areas.
The areas that often miss out.
Exactly. And they also pointed out that the Manamuthar Dam actually had decent levels around 85 feet out of 118. So they asked, can we start cultivating our paddy earlier this season?
Seems logical. Use the water while it's there. But bureaucracy.
Well, that's often the friction point, isn't it? The urgency on the ground versus the, let's say, more measured pace of administrative decisions. Crops don't wait.
They really don't. And sadly, this isn't the first time Thoothukudi farmers have faced this kind of water crisis.
No, it's a recurring theme. Back in 2016, there were similar pleas for water release from the Papanasam Dam. Thousands of acres were on the brink then, too.
And 2022, the Thoothukudi reservoir issue. Poor maintenance, allegations of water hoarding upstream.
Right, which forced farmers to switch crops, remember, to pulses, less water-intensive things. But even those struggled.
It points to a deeper systemic problem with water management in the region, really struggling to cope with these wild swings in weather.
Absolutely. These repeated crises suggest the underlying issues haven't been fully tackled. The system remains vulnerable.
And then there's the massive irony of the December 2023 floods.
Unbelievable, isn't it? From devastating floods that wiped out over 200,000 acres of crops, destroyed livestock,
To severe drought just over a year later. It's whiplash.
it's a textbook example of climate volatility. Flood and drought, back to back. It screams for integrated water management that can handle both extremes.
And there's another layer to this water problem too, a more insidious one.
You mean the salinity?
Yes, saline water intrusion. In coastal villages like Padukapathu, it's been creeping inland for decades, since the 90s even.
Rendering land unusable, it poisons the soil.
Exactly. Coconut groves abandoned, people forced to leave farms, their families work for generations. It's heartbreaking. The Thamirabarani doesn't reach everywhere, and if the canals aren't maintained...
Salt water finds its way in. It's a slow-motion disaster, stealing the land's productivity long-term.
So, given all this, what's the official response been this time in 2025?
Well, the district collector announced a plan back in April. 1,500 new farm ponds.
Farm ponds. Okay. Through corporate social responsibility funding targeting the rain-fed areas.
Right. Which sounds positive on the surface.
Yeah.
But the farmers are skeptical.
I can imagine. Where's the water going to come from to fill these ponds? That was the question one farmer apparently asked.
And it's a very fair question. Farm ponds are great for harvesting rainwater, but if it doesn't rain...
They're just holes in the ground. They can help, sure, but not a solution when the main sources are dry.
Exactly. They're supplementary, not a primary fix in a drought like this.
Did the collector address the damaged tanks?
Yes, acknowledge the need for repairs at Kadabakalum and Author, but progress seems slow.
Meanwhile, the PWD is sticking to its guns on prioritizing drinking water.
Which, again, is understandable. It's essential. But it leaves farmers feeling like their needs, which are also critical for the region's economy and food supply, are being sidelined. It's a tough balancing act for the authorities.
Definitely. Though, to be fair, there has been some support offered, right? Loans.
Yes, cooperative credit societies did disperse quite a bit in agricultural loans in 2024-25, targeting small and marginal farmers.
But money doesn't make water appear.
Precisely. Loans help manage debt, maybe buy inputs for next season, but they don't solve the immediate water shortage.
And adding insult to injury, the compensation for the 2023 flood damage, still pending for many.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Crop insurance payouts haven't fully come through. So farmers are squeezed from both sides. Current drought, past flood debts, delayed compensation. It's a precarious spot.
It really is. And looking bigger picture, climate change is just looming over all of this.
It is. We heard warnings from the Tamil Nadu Agricultural University, TNAU, last year. The vice chancellor was clear. Rising temperatures, erratic water supplies are a major threat to irrigated agriculture.
And Thoothukudi's soil type makes it tricky too, doesn't it? The black soil.
Yes. It's good at holding moisture, which could be great, but it also gets waterlogged easily in heavy rain and then cracks deeply during droughts. It's particularly vulnerable to these extremes.
Needs careful management, which requires reliable weather info. TNAU does provide that, right?
They do. They have a weather-based agro-advisory service sent via SMS. It tells farmers what to do based on forecasts. And it's pretty accurate, apparently.
That's useful, a valuable tool.
Definitely valuable, but, as TNAU themselves would say, an SMS can't make it rain. It can't change water allocation policies. It helps optimize, but it can't overcome a fundamental lack of water.
True, information is crucial, but you need the resource too. And the human cost. It's just immense.
It really is. You think about farmers in similar situations elsewhere, like that story from Thanjavur in 2020, Peach and Idurai, crop failure due to fertilizer shortages during lockdown.
Yeah, different cause, same vulnerability. Small farmers relying on factors often outside their control, whether it's fertilizer or, here, water.
And one bad season can be ruinous. Debt spirals, migration to cities. The social fabric starts to fray.
And it's not just the money, is it? Farming it's their identity.
Deeply ingrained. So when crops fail, it's months of work, hopes, dreams, just gone. It's despair.
You mentioned that dark humor earlier. My crops are so dry, they're ready to star in a desert movie.
Yeah. It's a coping mechanism, isn't it? A way to articulate the sheer stress and desperation without breaking down completely. But it shows the pain underneath.
So where do we go from here? Solutions. The farm ponds are a start, but limited. What else?
Micro-irrigation, that's a big one. Drip systems, sprinklers, they use water much more efficiently.
Tamil Nadu already subsidizes these for smaller farmers, right?
Yes, and we've seen successes elsewhere, like Kanyakumari, yields jumping 40, even 60% sometimes, with less water.
That could be huge for Thoothukudi, but it takes investment.
It takes investment and political will to really push for widespread adoption, training, support, the whole package.
Then fixing the old stuff, the existing infrastructure.
Absolutely critical. Those tanks like Kadabakalam, which apparently has had issues with sewage contamination since 2022, another problem.
Oh, great. So even if it had water, it might be unusable.
Potentially. So repairing tanks properly, desilting the canals so water actually flows, getting the Thoothukudi reservoir back to full capacity, these are vital. Basic maintenance, but essential.
Makes sense. And longer term, adapting to the climate.
That's where TNAU's recommendations come in. Looking at different crops, drought-resistant varieties, learning from places like the Kaveri Delta that have already had to adapt.
Maybe different types of coconut or banana. I think Killiculum Agricultural College works on those.
Exactly. Exploring varieties that can handle the heat and water stress better. Diversification is key for resilience.
So bottom line, this needs urgent action now.
Without a doubt, the farmers need water released immediately, where possible, to save what they can. Infrastructure repairs need to be fast-tracked.
And that balancing act for the PWD, drinking water versus irrigation, it needs a solution somehow.
It's tough, but the agricultural sector can't just be left to wither. The state needs a strategic investment plan for climate-resilient agriculture here. It's about livelihoods, food security, the whole regional economy.
These farmers, though, they are resilient, aren't they? They face so much.
Incredibly resilient. They're underdogs fighting against huge forces, climate, bureaucracy, market prices.
Right.
But they don't give up easily.
But they need help. From the government, scientists, from all of us, really, because their struggle connects to our food, our lives.
Totally interconnected. Supporting them isn't just charity. It's investing in our collective future, our food security.
Right. And if those crops could talk.
They'd probably be yelling, "What are you waiting for, PWD? We're thirstier than a camel at a dry bar."
Right, yeah. But seriously, the desperation is real. We need to pay attention to this. Their struggle matters.
It really does.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate, what we've discussed today comes from talking to people, they're farmers, officials, agricultural experts in Thoothukudi. We're trying to reflect their reality.
Absolutely. And we'll keep an eye on how things develop. It's a complex situation, showing that interplay of environment, infrastructure, policy.
It really forces you to think, doesn't it? About that bigger picture. How do we balance the water needs of cities versus farms, especially with climate change ramping things up? It's a question we all need to grapple with.